This is the first review video I'm doing, going over all of the Deep Zone Crypt raid weapons, with the first being Trustee, a 260 RPM scout rifle. I will preface this video by stating that the perk combinations are ultimately up to personal preference and playstyle. The 260 RPM archetype, aptly named Rapid Fire Frame, is unique in that it's full auto with a faster reload when the weapon is entirely empty. The most notable 260 RPM is Randy's Throwing Knife, a ritual weapon from the Season of the Undying that was sunset at the beginning of Season 12. At face value, Randy's appeared to breathe life into the weapon type, however this was soon proven false. With rapid hit and kill clip, Randy's felt strong in the PvE setting, however when compared to other primary weapons such as the Recluse, hand cannons, and pulse rifles for example, which could all roll with random rolls compared to Randy's average static roll, it felt like Randy's Throwing Knife never really got his time to shine. Fast forward to the Season of Dawn and Symmetry, D2's first exotic 260 RPM scout rifle came onto the scene. With an incredibly fun perk, Revolution, and its tracking rounds, Symmetry as a 260 immediately felt stronger than Randy's. Of course it's an exotic, so I hope that'd be the case. However, once again the novelty from Symmetry quickly wore off and 260s were left in the dust by their more popular counterparts. Keep in mind that weapon sunsetting had not yet been introduced, so much of the PvE and PvP meta remained the same for nearly all of Year 3, that meta being Mountaintop, Recluse, and Anarchy, just to name one extremely familiar loadout. With the introduction of sunsetting, it feels like the story has changed for typical loadouts, drastically, allowing for more experimental playstyles and utilization of new weapons. Enter Trustee. In the past, I've been underwhelmed with scout rifles entirely, whether it was because my playstyle was more focused on close quarters combat or I used a sniper for my long range weapon. Scout rifles were my last choice in nearly every circumstance. To put it frankly, I was spoiled by my history with Hung Jury in Destiny 1, and my playtime with scouts in D2 shows that I was highly unimpressed with the entire weapon type. However, Trustee truly feels like it changes the game for scout rifles, particularly the 260 RPM archetype. First, let's go over my favorite perk combinations. It's important to note that the barrel and magazine perks boil down to personal preference and can be found in the first and second columns of the gun's traits. Personally, I like when my weapons have a fast reload and high range. In the first trait slot, there are 3 notable traits, 2 of which are entirely new to the season, with 1 being exclusive to the Deep Zone Crypt raid. Reconstruction, the exclusive trait from the raid, is quite simply a phenomenal trait. Essentially, Reconstruction refills Trustee's magazines from reserves, up to double its capacity even in the holster. For example, on one of the rolls of Trustee I've earned, 18 is the base magazine size, but with Reconstruction the magazine fills to a sizable 36. Surplus is honestly a situational trait and depends on your playstyle. If you're someone who uses your abilities often, then you're probably not getting the most out of Surplus, as this trait increases handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability. However, Scouts are long-range weapons and are often used with a more reserved playstyle, thus limiting your ability usage, meaning that you're going to get more out of Surplus. Overall, Surplus does provide major boosts that can change how a weapon feels, but as I mentioned, it may not suit your style. The third trait in this column I recommend is the Beloved Outlaw, with its rapid reload when you get a precision kill. In my opinion, any reload perk is a great addition to any good gun. In the final column there are 2 main traits I highly recommend. First, High Impact Reserves. High Impact Reserves provides a damage buff to the rounds at the end of your magazine. This can reduce the time to kill in both the PvE and PvP settings, and gives nearly a 30% buff to weapon damage. I don't have one with High Impact Reserves yet, but any damage boost is incredible. The second trait is Wellspring, a magnificent trait new to Beyond Light and probably my favorite trait that came from this DLC. This trait recharges your abilities and splits the energy between uncharged abilities whenever you get a kill. Wellspring is my personal favorite on Trustee, as it ensures that my abilities come back a lot faster. On my Trustee, I have Polygonal Rifling to give me a +9 stability boost, Accurized rounds for +8 to range, Outlaw to get that quick reload, and Wellspring to make sure my abilities are constantly full. With the reload masterwork, I'm almost always prepared for an engagement when my magazine empties. This was my first Trustee roll I received and has been in my regular rotation for raids and PvP. I always make sure it's in my inventory as its rapid fire archetype, handling, range, predictable recoil pattern, and overall utility has been a major and welcome surprise this season. To be honest, Trustee has surpassed my expectations for a scout rifle in Destiny 2. Throughout D2, scout rifles have been lackluster at best and always fell behind other weapon types, either due to lack in practicality or because other weapons, like pulse rifles, could simply do a scout rifle's job better. However, with the impressive new traits Trustee can roll with and a slight aim assist buff Scouts received at the beginning of Season 12, I can confidently say that Trustee has quickly become a new favorite. I hope that Trustee is an omen of good things to come for scout rifles as a whole. Now for criticism. Trustee is a scout rifle, which might seem to go against my entire point of, it's a good scout rifle. Basically, when compared to, let's say, Nine Hunger, probably the most popular auto rifle in the game, and Stars and Shadow, a new Solar Crucible Pulse rifle, Trustee feels average, especially when looking at how many better traits can roll on Nine Hunger and Stars and Shadow. High Impact Reserves and the new trait Redirection are the only damage perks on Trustee, but both Nine Hunger and Stars and Shadow can roll with better overall traits like Kill Clip or Demolitionist. Linked below will be the light GG links for these weapons, but as you see, Stars and Shadow has even more of a trait pool that allows for better rolls. Basically, Trustee is still hindered by the fact that it's a scout rifle with a limited trait pool. I'm not saying it's bad or not worth getting, I actually really like Trustee, and totally believe that this is the right direction that scouts need to be heading. Bungie has stated that scouts have a reasonable time to kill, and can't be adjusted too much without making them dominate the battlefield, leading them to simply adjust scouts to have more aim assist instead of a full-on buff. I agree that scouts would be difficult to balance, but I also believe that Trustee would not succeed or be as good as it is if it were not a 260 RPM full auto archetype. Overall, I give Trustee a ranking of A, with S being the best of the best and F being the worst. Trustee is worth grinding a good roll on, as it can perform beyond a normal scout rifle's expectations and can provide diversity to any loadout. Trustee hits hard, rolls with amazing perks, and signifies a positive shift towards the overall functionality of scout rifles. That's it for this review over Trustee, the scout rifle earned from the Deepstone Crypt raid. If you have any questions, make sure to comment, and as always, be excellent to each other.